Now, the European Commission is set to unveil a plan to raise import tariffs on Russian oil. This comes as the U.S. President Donald Trump has accused NATO allies India and China of indirectly funding Russia's war with Ukraine. Speaking on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, Trump claimed continued purchases of Russian oil are fueling the war effort. He warned Europe to cut energy ties with Moscow or face more U.S. sanctions and possible tariffs. Despite sanctions, several NATO countries still import Russian energy. Now for this discussion, we go back to Professor David K. Johnson. He's an American author as well as professor. Now we move on. Thank you very much for Professor John for joining us. Professor, now yesterday we saw Trump accused EU of many things. There's so many. It was just continuous. So how do you think it will affect their U.S.'s relationship with European countries which were accused yesterday, and also how do you think they will be reacting to this?
Well, in the aftermath of World War II, the United States became the agenda setter for much of the world, and very brilliantly put together alliances, notably NATO, to ensure that it had a dominant position. Donald Trump is in the process of burning all that down, of throwing it away. The speech he gave at the UN yesterday was anti-diplomatic. It was full of just lies and fabrications, because that's what Donald does. He does it all the time, and insults. And I think you're going to slowly see the U.S.'s influence recede even more than it has, maybe not slowly. And I think you're also going to see the Europeans, together with the Canadians, the Mexicans, and the countries of East Asia, notably Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, and Singapore, pull away from the U.S. in terms of trade. They're going to make their own deals with each other, and they're going to minimize the influence of the U.S. And one of the signs of that is the U.S. dollar relative to other currencies has fallen sharply this year. Basically, these other countries, they're just going to begin to take the position, we don't need to have the U.S. here telling us what to do. We're not going to put up with that. And we have enough economic power now, unlike in 1945, when the U.S. had more than half the world's industrial capacity, to just pull away and do our own deals.
And Professor, how is this news covered in U.S., if you can tell us a little bit? And is MAGA or people supporting Trump's administration, are they happy with how he attacked or criticized EU in yesterday's speech?
I don't have the temperature of what's happened with MAGA, which is largely, as Donald himself describes them, the poorly educated. People who have no real knowledge of the rest of the world, or history, or anything else. The speech to the UN has gotten a fair amount of attention because it was essentially one insult after another, and this has shocked a lot of people, but not reported with the sort of depth that you might like to see. That probably this coming Sunday we will see in-depth analyses and reviews of the speech, and all of this in America is seen by a large segment of the population in the context of Trump's efforts to divert attention from himself with regard to the sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein and the files he had promised to make public and now insists can't be made public, which is not true, and the problem that his border czar apparently was videotaped by the FBI accepting $50,000 in a paper bag, which the White House called a hoax. We'll find out about that. I suspect no, there actually is a videotape of it. But Trump is trying very hard to deflect attention away from those things that would be very damaging to him personally and to continuing as president.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Professor John for joining us, and